have to hide. Hey, we're shaping bread early. Bread's ready, so you guys will just have to watch the rewind of the video if you didn't randomly see that I updated. Did. Hello, welcome. Sorry, it's bread. Try to guess as much as we can, but yeah. So we're gonna do our shape. Bread's ready. So we started. It was around there. You can see it's grown up there, and then it's let's see if we get it good. You see, full of bubbles. I don't want to mess with it too much, but it's got a good, yeah, good spring touch. This is one of the hardest things: how to tell when it's ready, when it's done. So the stage we went through is called bulk fermentation. So at that point, after you mix and you add your salt and you give it a little turns or knead it or however you end up developing gluten, how do you tell when it's ready? And this is where you mess up your bread the most. So if you get fallen loaves, if you get bread that's dense, it's either underproofing or overproofing, typically during bulk fermentation. It's kind of hard to tell. Depends on the bread that you make, depends on how hydrated it is, depends on what flour you used, how much whole grain, how much white flour, all of that. A general test that you'll hear again and again, it sounds easy, but not so easy in practice. Take either a floured or a wet finger and you poke it about half an inch or so quickly. And then you see, does it spring back immediately, or does it stay caved in and it doesn't spring back at all, or does it spring back slowly? What you're looking for is that spring back slowly. And what that's telling you is, so those three different things. If you poke it, it pops right back. It doesn't have a lot of air in it, and it has a lot of, like, it's a very tightly wound essentially. So you poke it and then it just bounces back. If you poke it and it stays down and it doesn't come back, that's because you've taken all of your starch and protein and you've stretched it, but then you might have stretched it almost to the point of breaking, and then when you poke it, you're essentially destroying that, which is a sign that it's overproof, that you've stretched it too far, because your bread still has to go. You're still going to shape it, and then it's still going to go into the oven, where it's going to hit a lot. It's going to get oven spring, which is that point where it hits the high temperature, the yeast really starts going active, and then there's steam produced as well. So you need to have a little bit of stretch remaining. So overproofing essentially means that you've taken it to the point of you can't stretch anymore. And when it's forced to stretch due to all those gas releases, it'll actually break all those bonds and then it collapses. So sometimes overproof bread can look a lot like underproof bread, in the sense of when it bakes. So they'll both come out dense and heavy. One of them, because it hasn't been the underproof, it hasn't been getting enough time to really build in gases and stretch, and so it hits oven spring and it's super tight. And the other one, because again, it's up to that point and then it breaks apart and then it falls down. So both of them, one of them starts small, the other one finishes small. So best thing to do when you're learning is use the same container and use the same measurements and make the same bread and see what it looks like in a straight-sided container, but then also be poking it, touching it, feeling it, looking at it. That'll give you a good idea of when it's done, because then when you bake the bread, you'll see, did it turn out good? Great. Then you know that you have it about right. The volume's not going to lie to you too much. So baking the same thing really helps. So anyways, without further ado, let's shape some bread. So what we're going to do, we're going to flip it out, use lightly watered hands, just a little bit of moisture on them, and a bench knife, and then we're going to divide it, because I made 4 loaves. If you just make one, you'll have to divide it, obviously. And then we're just going to quickly round it with as little touching as possible, and then we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back again and give it a final shape and put it into the baskets. So let's do it. I'll try to get this down there. All right. So bench knife and some water. And just gently rock it out with the weight. Pull it. Cool. That's a good one. Right. Divide it into fours. Okay. So now get underneath it, pick it up, and then pull it towards you. Pull it towards you, and done. Right. Do the same thing here. Set them right next to each other. All right. So setting it down. Let's get over here. Let's see. So turn it. See, I'm flattening this and pushing it towards. Let's see if we can get it better. Let's see. So this part is hitting here and it's tensioning this part. So you're getting this to stick onto your counter, which is then forcing this to tension. So this is going to be our crust. And so we need to build a little bit of tension into that. But we don't want to handle it too much right now. We're just a couple of quick and then done. Right, so 1 and 2, done, and that's it. All right. Now we'll just let it rest for half an hour. You don't have to cover it unless you have a strong wind blowing through or something like that. It's only half an hour. But if you do, I mean, if it's hot summer and you have the doors open like I do, you might throw a cloth over top of it, or you could spritz it with a little bit of water if you needed to, but try to avoid that as much as you can. We'll come back in half an hour from right now, so 3:15, 3:20. So see you then. All right.